and welcome back to another episode of Lost Down. It is a David and Wally show today, episode 136. It's crazy how high we're getting up there. Not a ton of NFL news, but we'll get into that here in a second. David, Kentucky Derby weekend, another nice weather weekend. What have you been up to, my guy?
I don't even remember what I did this weekend, so we can start there.
Good.
Oh, I went to a couple soccer games for my girlfriend's son. That's what I did this weekend. It was pretty relaxing and good weekend. How was your weekend?
It was jam-packed. So I had a bachelor party for one of my good friends, Tyler. Many of you, he's the one that I go to the draft with. So he's finally getting married, and I was in Northeast Ohio for that little exchange there. He had, we went to a Guardian game, which was fun. I haven't been able to go to the Jake in forever, so that was a good time. Here's the kicker, though. My parents went to the Kentucky Derby. Awesome event. My dad went with work. It's crazy how you are literally rubbing elbows as like a normal person with like the high, like mighty of the world, the celebrity. It's like one of the last like places like that where it's just, you just intermingle. Like he had pictures of Kirk Herbstreit, Ryan Day. Patrick Mahomes was like 30 feet behind him all day, and he's getting booed by all the Kentucky Bengal fans, or Cincinnati Bengal fans, excuse me. But it was crazy to get that kind of picture. So my weekend was more living through him, and that way, and it was fitting because this is his birthday, May 8th today. So happy birthday to him. Love him and definitely appreciate all he's done for me.
Happy birthday!
Exactly, Dave.
Okay, but on a more somber note, though, did you see that stat that like 10 horses were euthanized in the like 7 days leading up to the Kentucky Derby? Like 3 of them were euthanized the night before or whatever after racing that day. Like that's a kind of fucked up statistic.
Yeah, and there's two sides. So like the one, there was a trainer who I think is either going to get banned or potentially, I think, like felony charge or something like that, because it was like 4 or 5 of his horses, and he's being investigated because the belief is that he wasn't, I don't know what the word would be. He wasn't very, I don't know. He was basically abusing his horses. He was drugging the horses. He was doing whatever he could do to get the horses eligible to race. But then the other side is that happens so often, and it's just the ugly side of the whole horse racing thing where I've never really been able to rationalize in my head. It's kind of just.
But you know why they euthanize them,
cringy.
Don't you?
I don't know. Is this turning into an Elmer's joke or something?
No, that's fucked
Okay.
up. But I
thought that
appreciate
might
a
be where
fucked
you were
up
going.
question. No, to my knowledge, they euthanize them because the horse will never race again after it like breaks its leg, or after some like bad injury with its legs, it'll never race again, and then your multi-million-dollar racehorse becomes essentially worthless. So I'm pretty sure they euthanize them for the insurance money. Now that could be
Holy shit! I had never.
that
heard
could be
that.
totally wrong, but that's something I read the other day, and it kind of makes sense given that that's kind of still a weird industry to talk about because it's
it feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but those owners get, every time they euthanize that horse, the owners get paid out what the horse's value was.
Well, I guess it makes sense because it is basically an asset when you get into how much money that these things are. But see, I'd always thought it was just that the rehab was going to be so brutal on the horse that it was almost more humane.
I think it's that. I think it's that too. But it's like once that happens, it becomes worthless. So they think it's kind of like a double-edged sword there, where it's like, well, we could go through it, but if we just put it out of its misery, then everyone wins. And it's kind of a weird thing to think about.
Dude, it is, and it's again.
I could be 100% wrong, and that's just kind of how it plays out. But I'm pretty sure I'm not too far off.
I don't doubt it at all, especially in that kind of a field that you can tell it's old money. It's not exactly. It's like you said, people don't talk about horse racing unless you're like into horse racing. So even the people against it don't really talk about it. Like I love going to Northfield or North Park. Where is that? It's the one up towards your neck of the woods. Yeah,
The Racino.
I
I
want
know
to
what you're
go to
talking
there
about.
more. Yeah, but that's one of those things like I love to go, but I don't do it enough to I'm not like one of these horse people, that are reading their books and shit, but I don't know, it is a weird thing to talk about. But anyways, you know why we're here. It's NFL news, where when our players get hurt, we don't send them to the Elmer's factory. We just sit sadly for 18 months until they're back. But this time we're not going to talk about injuries because we have a big man getting paid. Steven said it earlier, sexy Dexy, Dexter Lawrence, 4-year deal, $90 million, 60 of which is guaranteed. I mean, it's a slam dunk, right? I don't even know how else to transition. This is a premier interior defensive lineman getting paid. Good move for the Giants, right?
It's a great signing for the Giants, and it's just amazing how much more put together this team looks now that they, after shedding arguably the worst sports GM in history. And I mean, the signing to me puts pressure on the other side of New York. It puts pressure on the Jets, who are now in a precarious position with Quinn. Is it Quinnen Williams? Quinnen?
Yeah.
Did I have that
Quinnen
right?
Williams.
I'll never assume that that's his name first time off. Anyways, Quinnen Williams, because now the defensive tackle market is set. There is a clear number. We've got 3 signings this offseason that are clear cut. If you're this defensive tackle, you're getting paid this much. If you're this technique defensive tackle, you're getting paid this much. And it's not like it is just clear cut line. And the Jets need to step up once again before the season starts to get Williams paid, because otherwise there's just going to be a distraction in the locker room.
And speaking of Quinnen Williams, he's the kind of guy too, because this is in that $22.5-ish million a year range. I could see him garnering $25 million. Be the guy that resets the market. He seems like a guy that would be willing to wait until he gets a contract that he is willing to sign and accept. And if that's the case, I mean, you kind of got to do it if you're the Jets. It's just we are seeing now, really since that Rams push, even before they won the Super Bowl with Aaron Donald, what an interior defensive lineman like these guys can do for your entire defense. And Wink Martindale came in last year. We saw that Giants defense get a lot better. He deserves credit. But what Dexter Lawrence did last year was, I don't even feel like talked about nearly enough. He was a second-team All-Pro. These are Steven's notes here. I'm reading for him. He had career highs in tackles and solo tackles. And then he led the Giants in quarterback hits, sacks, and tackles for loss. And that's a team, I know he was banged up, but with rookie top 5 pick Kayvon Thibodeau, who you're expecting to take another jump himself this year. I mean, he had this career best Pro Football Focus grade, 91.6. Only Chris Jones was higher. This is a superstar we're watching right now. And if that other side of the ball can figure it out a little bit with Daniel Jones, maybe get a little help from the wide receivers, this is a Giants team that they probably won't beat the Eagles, but at least they'll hang around with them in the NFC East.
I still find it, Dexter Lawrence isn't talked about enough because he's a nose tackle. He is a one technique who is getting heavy pressure up the middle and stopping runs as well. Like he got, what was it, 7.5 sacks last season? I mean, yes. I can't remember a true one technique, like a true nose tackle, since maybe, oh God, I'm gonna forget his name.
Uh-oh. Can you give me a team I can help?
He finished his career on the Browns. Is it Sean Richardson? It's not Sean Richardson. It's
Ted Washington?
No.
I was like, Ted Washington was just a space eater, but I love that man to death.
I think it is Sean Richardson, but I could be very wrong. I don't think I'm right.
But while you're saying it, 342
Sheldon.
pounds.
It's not Sheldon.
Sheldon Richardson.
But it's not Sheldon.
Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, but Sheldon's
There's
not a
Sheldon
one
Richardson.
I know, but he's not a one
Yeah, he
technique.
was a 3.
Sean Rogers? Is that it? I don't know.
You are breaking my brain right now.
I can't remember. To be honest, I can't remember the last true one technique in the last 10 years that has put that much pressure up the middle and been that successful.
Well, it's a position that we're kind of seeing even like 3-4s are more of like a hybrid 4-3 almost a little bit now, where the true nose tackle position, it's a lot like the fullback on the defensive side of the ball. We're seeing it really phased out. But you see a guy like Dexter Lawrence, he played over 50 snaps, I think, every game, but ironically the first 2 last year. This guy is playing every snap at a high level. He's not taking plays off, and he's explosive, and he's 342 pounds. The NFL athlete is getting so obscene now. That's why when guys like, you guys drafted Siaki Ika, and he is going to be a massive body. I'm not saying he's going to be Dexter Lawrence. What I'm saying is that these aren't the guys that we're used to seeing of the past. They're going to be fast. They're going to be explosive. You got to recycle through so that they can stay fresh. But there's no reason to think that these guys can't be kind of the future of this position. I didn't know if you were still looking for that name or not.
It's Sean. It's for sure Sean Rogers. It's
cool.
for sure Sean Rogers that I'm thinking of, but he only had 1 season at 7 sacks, and the rest were at like 4, 3, or 2. But he was definite nose tackle, so at least I'm right there.
No, that's fair. That's fair. That's never what they were asked to do. I think of the Ted Washingtons of the world, where it's just, I'm going to take my man and I'm going to stay here, and you're not running on either side of me.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. But anyways, great move for the G-men in an offseason now, all of a sudden. That's a defense. I don't even want to jump forward yet, because I do have for you, David, you'll see on our rundown, the depth chart here for the defense of the Giants. Compared to what this team was 15, even 18 months ago, I can't imagine being more excited if I'm a Giants fan. You have Kayvon, you expect to take another big step. You bring in you still have guys like Azeez Ojulari, you expect to take another step as well, going into his 3rd season. This is a front 7, especially the way Wink Martindale plays. Where do you, again, it's way too early, where do you kind of see this team at? Because I think that 11 wins isn't out of the question for a team like this.
It depends what we're getting from Daniel Jones this year.
Yeah,
are we getting a team like last year that if they can't run the ball they lose? Because if that's the case, then I'm probably putting them somewhere in the 9-win range again. And if it's a team that takes a step forward offensively and gets a step forward defensively as well, then I'm with you on 10 or 11 wins, especially in the NFC where it feels like it's kind of wide open after the top 3 or 4 teams.
Well, and this is going to be expertise for next week. We're going to do our schedule release show next Monday. It will probably just be Steven and I for that, but we'll get your thoughts a week after as well. But this is a NFC East that we're so used to playing, I feel like, gutter teams. Next year, they have the AFC East and the NFC West. So as soon as I say you can see this team winning 11 games, then you factor in they're playing the 49ers, a Seahawks team that looks a lot better, in the AFC East where there isn't a bad team in there. So
it's a gauntlet. It's a gauntlet.
It's a gauntlet of a schedule. It's going to be really hard to win a wild card if you're in the NFC East. So hopefully they can live up to the expectations, Giants fans. Unfortunately, we don't have Steven here today because his quarterback, that feels good to say, his quarterback, Jordan Love, is getting a unique extension from Green Bay. An extension you don't see in the NFL because it came on the deadline day for the 5th-year option decisions. And if it comes off like the Packers front office and brass wasn't really quite sure that the $22 million that was going to come with that was worth it. So what happens is Jordan Love and the team gets an extension that is effectively a 5th-year option that pays less money, but it gives Jordan Love basically 2 years to prove he's the guy. When you saw this deal, what were your thoughts?
Good for the Packers, honestly. Like, paying a bad quarterback less money than you would have paying his 5th-year option or taking the 5th-year risk. And if he ends up panning out to be a quality everyday starter, even better for the Packers. But it's a lose-lose for Jordan Love to me. I don't know why you would. I mean, I guess the only way you would sign that contract is if you don't believe that you'll be the everyday starter 2 years from now. I mean, for me, that's like you're betting against yourself by signing that contract. But
That dude, you took it literally from me here too. I said, like Mark Sessler of Around the NFL, one of my favorite NFL insiders, he said what you just said, where he's just like, this is the inverse of betting on yourself. You're basically saying, I don't know if I got the juice, guys.
yeah, I honestly, I just don't understand it. You'll have to, somebody's gonna have to explain it to me from Jordan Love's perspective. But from the Packers' perspective, phenomenal move. Like, you're able to free up cap. You're not committing to a quarterback. You're getting him for less money than if you did commit to his 5th year, or I guess if you committed to that 5th-year option, I should say. I don't know. So somebody has to explain it to me from Jordan Love's perspective, because this was really stupid in my opinion.
My attempt to try to rationalize this from Jordan Love's perspective without just saying I'm not betting on myself is that God forbid you get injured this year. You have that 5th year where Green Bay is very likely to go back to you again unless one of those massive quarterback prospects seems in play. And they rejected his 5th-year option like Daniel Jones and the Giants did last year. If he failed, he would be out of a job and he's looking for a backup gig somewhere. At least this now, you would imagine, buys him almost an insurance policy to get another year in his 5th year. But that's a rationalization attempt. That's it. What I will say is Steven was not able to come on. He found out a couple hours before he had to go in for an x-ray for his puppy. But he had notes here. And one of his notes, David, I quote, interesting that Goot doesn't want to pay a guy that hasn't played, but also doesn't want to pay a quarterback that can. And he says, I am at a loss for words. What could he possibly be upset about if you're a Packer fan? If I'm a fan, this is the best case scenario, isn't it?
For the Packers, probably. I'm confused by the doesn't want to pay a quarterback that can play, because didn't they give Aaron Rodgers all the money in the world like 2 years ago?
Yeah, he'd still be there if Aaron Rodgers was like a normal human being.
Yeah, he'd still be there.
And he wanted to be in Green Bay. He'd be there for the rest of his career.
Absolutely.
Like Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, everybody's like, what happened? Those quarterbacks, those people ran themselves out of Green Bay. Like, Green Bay is a very easy place to play. The fans adore you. You just have to basically not be what these people were at the end. Like, I hope Jordan Love turns out to be something great. I say that 50-50. 50-50. Part of me wants him to be great. Part of me wants Packer fans to realize what, like, the rest of us losers feel like every day. I don't know. I was a little confused by Steven's frustration here. But we'll get Steven's take on that next week. I'm sure he'll have a reason. Maybe at this point it's just pure hatred for Gutenkust, which is possible. But we want to remind you guys that this... Oh, I have this NFL draft. But we want to remind you guys that this NFL news was brought to you by Abby Turner Creative, your one-stop shop marketing agency specializing in branding, high-end photography, fashion, and more. Especially if you're around our age, where there's a college graduations, engagements, weddings, baby pictures, you name it, feels like they're happening every weekend. Abby Turner Creative is the only way to go. Check her out for yourself on abbyturnerphoto.com. That's Abby, A-B-B-E-Y, or on her Instagram page at Sawdad and Sapphire. Again, abbyturnerphoto.com. Steven's not here, but I'm sure he can hear it if he's listening right now. The sirens are going. It's 911 rapid fire. And that means we're going to you first, David. Randall Cobb. He signs a 1-year deal with the Jets and the Aaron Rodgers quarterback we just were talking about. Thoughts?
Over the last couple of years, this guy would have been out of the league, if not end of bench material, if it weren't for being Aaron Rodgers' baby blanket. And I fear for how much more insane Aaron Rodgers would be if he didn't get his cuddle buddy everywhere he went over the last couple years.
Yeah, I have it written down that I think he's his emotional support wide receiver just because it makes no sense at all why this move even would happen. Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, Mecole Hardman, Corey Davis, Denzel Mims, all quarter or receivers I would put ahead of him just to make Rodgers happy. You'd imagine at least one of those names will not be on the roster come August, and even then, I don't know what Cobb's doing here. The Patriots signed cornerback Rock Ya-Sin to a $6 million deal. He was the 74th graded cornerback last year, according to Pro Football Focus, after being in the top 50 the year before. But given what the silver and black does to defensive players, and it like zaps your abilities like the Space Jam basketball, I think it's a pretty reasonable risk. And then you factor in, they brought in Christian Gonzalez too. Look out. This could be one of the best secondaries in football.
Yeah, I'm stealing Steven's notes here for anyone that doesn't have our rundown here. But the Pats growing their secondary via the draft and free agency, it's like you said, it's a good pickup, solid DB. I have nothing to add to that. So again, I'm reading Steven's notes and stealing them for myself. But moving on to our next piece, Wally, a more entertaining piece. Tackle Donovan Smith joining the Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs. Give it to me.
All right, so I'm going to try to keep this rapid, but this almost probably should be in news just because I'm going to melt down in my head. He was a fringe starter last year. They brought in now, instead, Jawan Taylor in Orlando Brown's absence, and now they're going to follow up Andrew Wiley with Donovan Smith. So is Donovan Smith playing left tackle or right tackle? Because it feels like he's probably going to play left. And if that's the case, that's a problem. That is a problem. That is a guy who struggled badly last year in Tampa. And if I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm praying that Wanya Morris, the tackle from Oklahoma, the second best tackle from Oklahoma drafted this year, is going to be the guy that wins that job. Because otherwise, you cannot convince me that this was an upgrade.
I don't think it's an upgrade, but I think protecting Patty $1 billion Magic is the priority in Kansas City right now. And if basically the front office is going to continue the train that they started last year after losing a Super Bowl because of their offensive line, they're going to go out and they're going to go sign their best players available that they can get, right? Or, if this turns out poorly, they're going to go trade for somebody. If this pans out for Kansas City again and this front office continues to do what they're doing, which is just buy O-line, keep some weapons around Patrick Mahomes, and then, before Mahomes is even 2 years into his contract, say, hey, after a terrible quarterback and Lamar Jackson got paid, maybe we do need to raise your salary even more than the $500 million we gave you before. If they're going to continue doing this, the AFC is not going to be able to eat for the next decade. This is basically just the Patriots dynasty reincarnated in Kansas City.
All over again. All over again. Well, here's the thing that I got to just say, just because I think it's hilarious. So I'm using your Pro Football Focus account right now. Shout out you, David. But I have just 3 teams tackles up last year. Exclusively tackles, mind you. Not guards, not centers. I have the Buccaneers, that way I can get Donovan Smith. I have the Jaguars, so I can get Taylor. And I have the Chiefs, so that I can see what they had last year. As far as their rankings go, on grades alone, Jawan Taylor and Donovan Smith were 11th and 12th of those 14 tackles. Andrew Wiley was 8th, and Orlando Brown was 2nd. I know it's Pro Football Focus, you really can only put so much stock into this. But with that being said, if that's even close to how it pans out next year, I'm excited for those games in January when you're going to get the Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, Browns, like whoever it is out there rushing Patrick Mahomes, because he's going to have to do what he did in that Super Bowl and run for 500 yards just to survive.
So, counterpoint.
I hope it's a good one. I hope.
Okay.
Actually, I don't want it to be a good one. I hope it's a terrible one.
So, both of them were ranked 65th and 66th overall as tackles, right? However,
yes,
their pass blocking grades rank in, where is it? Oh, they're not in order. Hold
Yeah, I
on.
do see 71 and 76.
It's top
basically,
20 in the
respectively.
NFL, I think. I'm not counting physically, so it's like top 20, top 25 in the NFL for pass blocking grades, and then their run blocking is so atrocious that you and I might be able to open up a hole as well as them. But what do the Kansas
That's a
City
good
Chiefs not do?
counterpoint.
Is run the ball. So what do I care? I think they're focused on those on the pass blocking, which they're not tremendously better than the guys before them. They're not even better than the guys before them, but it's better than if they didn't get those guys.
Yes, that's true. But here's counterpoint is Orlando Brown played left tackle and Juwan Taylor plays right. So unless Juwan Taylor flips to the left side, if you go a little bit of that old school mentality, I know a lot of people think right tackle is almost as valuable as left now, but maybe Patrick Mahomes takes a few more shots to the blind side because you don't have that left tackle that, like, his pass blocking grades, it's a healthy jump ahead of that of Donovan Smith. And Donovan Smith's another year older. We saw him get him and the rest of that line torn apart verbally by Tom Brady on a handful of occasions last year. I want it to happen again. I want to talk myself into believing that I can spin this into a Donovan Smith thing. I want that. I want to be talking about him in December. I don't want to forget who their left tackle is. Because if we remember who their tackle is all year, I feel good, David. I feel like something's good there. God. I'm just not healthy having them win championships multiple times in 5 years. It's not good for the mental health. But that will bring us to the end of a very short episode of Lost Down. This has got to be close to the record books. It means we're getting into that time of year. It's the dead period. But make sure you comment, like, and subscribe to us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Loss of Down. Still pumping out plenty of YouTube videos, trying to get better at that too. And make sure you retweet us and follow us on Twitter at @down_loss. We'll be getting better there as well too. But just remember, this episode was brought to you by Tabbies.com and Abby Turner Creative. And that leads me to you, David. Short So what are your plans for the next week?
So funny you ask is I'm actually going to St. Martin Thursday.
No way. Get the hell
Thursday
out.
through Monday for Kate Mendiola's wedding. You remember her?
Absolutely, I remember.
Yeah, she's getting married in St. Martin, so I'm heading out there, and her wedding's on Saturday. She's got an event on Friday, but I'm literally just trying to make it a long weekend to get a little vacation in.
Well, I'm one of those losers that's been there on a cruise ship, so I know, like, the one area that cruises go, basically. Where is it anywhere along that strip? Because I just know they have that damn Ohio State bar, which you'd hate, I guess, and then they have that big ass beach where the planes fly right over.
Yeah.
And they had these crazy drinks called bushwhackers, and I remember just getting crippled on those when I was 15, 16 years old.
So I don't know a whole lot. I know my hotel is probably, I don't know, 2 miles tops from that beach that the planes fly into St. Juliana on, or whatever, it's at Juliana Airport. I don't know, it's Juliana something. So we're 2 miles from that, I think, maybe even less. And then the hotel that Kate's getting married in is just north of us, not that far. It's a 5 to 10 minute drive.
That's awesome. Well, you'll have to tell her that we said hello and that good luck.
Oh.
Obviously, marriage thing. That's
hope it pans out. Yeah.
You need luck. Yeah. But that's awesome, dude. Have a great time. I'm jealous. That would explain why you can't be here.
What are you doing this weekend?
That's why David won't be here Monday, folks. In-person show, Steven and I. So keep your eye out for that. But otherwise, David, Denny Hamlin won yesterday.
I saw your tweet.
Finally get something to be happy about.
I saw your tweet. I knew it was coming. I knew it was going to get mentioned.
Well, I just had to get my white trash Wally out there just for a minute. So I was drinking Yinglings and shouting at a TV while cars go in a circle. So, yeah, things went pretty well yesterday. But otherwise, happy birthday again to my dad. You're the man. In dead period, guys, I know I kind of said that there in the outro. But this time of year, we're struggling to find things to talk about. So hang on there with us. We're going to be doing a lot more interviews. So keep your eye on this, especially if you were a part of that mock draft. Good chance we'll be reaching out to you, hopefully get you on. We're going to also try to expand ourselves a little bit, try to broaden the brush a little bit, hopefully get some interviews that you guys will be excited to share and listen as well. But otherwise, David, any final thoughts, parting words, anything?
Not a thing.
Awesome. Well, on that note, we will see you guys next week. Until then, celebrate Sexy Dexy getting paid. You're the best. We love you fat guys. You deserve the money. See you next Monday.